Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey guys, Tim here with a quick programming note. If you did not happen to catch our release on Monday, we did an interview with the director, cast, and composer/producer of a movie called Terror Eyes. Now, we had decided to take a brief break in the middle of our summer vacation to bring you two fantastic interviews that we had an opportunity to do. So that's the reason why the kind of unconventional schedule this week. So today we have for you an interview with TRAVIS CLUFF and Chris LOFING. They are the duo behind Tremendum Pictures, and they brought us 2015's The Gallows, if you remember that one, and fantastic to talk to. Their latest is a movie called Held. This was written, and lead actor Jill Awbrey is also going to be on the interview with us to talk about how she wrote this film, the ideas behind it, and her fantastic portrayal of Emma, which is the main character in the film. Really, really fun thriller. It takes advantage of smart home technologies and a lot of modern type twist on the horror genre. So I think you guys are really going to love it. Again, we appreciate Travis, Chris, and Jill coming on the show to talk about this movie, and I hope you guys will go seek it out. It's out actually on Blu-ray this week, so go check it out. Now, we will be back next week, July 19th, with the second half of our Evil Dead retrospective, so make sure you check that out. And then following that, our big deep dive into the Puppet Master series, which is going to be a 3-parter. Can't wait for that one. That one's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. So without further ado, here's our interview with TRAVIS CLUFF, Chris LOFING, and Jill Awbrey.
We recently had the opportunity to check out the gripping new horror thriller Held. With us to discuss it are directors TRAVIS CLUFF and Chris LOFING, and writer and star Jill Awbrey. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Thank you.
Hey, everyone.
For having us.
Hopefully I got the names right. Did I pronounce everything right?
It's loafing, like loafing.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You got it.
You were right there, and just for attempting to do it right, we applaud you.
Thank you. Hey, yeah, like I said, what we always like to tell people we're notorious for butchering names when we read them. So I think 2 out of 3, I think that's a decent.
Pretty good for us.
Meatloaf said that was okay. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So right,
Yeah.
So we're okay.
Man, that was a slew of puns right there. I mean, considering the name of the podcast, you talk about butchering and then meatloaf all in the same sentence.
Yeah.
And loafing being the
And
name.
loafing being the loaf of bread, like loafing, you cutting slices.
Yeah, we work on multiple levels.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, guys, thank you so much for being on the show. Watched the movie today and absolutely loved it. And I wanted to start things off with Chris and Travis. You guys have worked on a number of projects together, including a film that many of our listeners have seen. I'm certainly familiar with it. And that's The Gallows back in 2015. So can you tell us a little bit about how you guys got started working together?
Yeah, absolutely. This is Chris talking. I went to film school in Los Angeles. It's actually the New York Film Academy, but their LA office is pretty popular. And I just did the 1-year film program there. And my thesis film brought me to Central California, Fresno area, because it was outside the system enough to have a lot of really cool locations without permits, without a lot of the red tape that you face in LA. And I was able to make this really cool thesis film for like very, very little money. And
he's being modest. It was like the best thesis film of his entire class, and the 10 to 12 classes before and after his class.
I tried not to do the white walls, student film apartment, kind of setup.
No, he freaking blew it out of the water. It was awesome.
But that's how I met Travis. Travis auditioned for my film to be a stunt guy because it was like a superhero movie, and so I needed guys to be, tossed around and beat up. And Travis was fresh off of the TV show Wipeout, ABC's Wipeout.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So having been on Wipeout and won my episode,
he won the episode.
I dubbed myself a professional stuntman. So when I heard that this kid was coming up from film school to film his thesis in Fresno, and me having had such a great experience just with the whole crew, the behind the scenes stuff of Wipeout, I said, I got to get into this. And so I volunteered to do stunts for this guy. And and help out in any way possible, and just try to learn a bunch too. Because I mean, he was at film school, I hadn't been, and I just thought I could glean a lot of information and then make my way in.
And eventually I ended up moving to Fresno and living with Travis and his family, and I still do. It's been 10 years now.
Yeah, and actually on this very day, we got the Facebook reminder showing the picture where we first met.
Oh yeah, the little Facebook memories.
Yeah, today, 11 years ago, we first met. And
Oh, it's cool.
It was at rehearsal. Maybe we'll post it on Facebook.
We should.
But it was at a boxing gym that I had arranged, hearing about helping this person out with stunts and choreographing stuff. And there I was, at the boxing gym waiting for this, Hollywood sunglasses, person coming in with this huge entourage. And
what did you get?
I got these college students hopping out of what looked like a little clown car, loaded to the brim with gear and stuff. And then Chris pops out, and he's the youngest looking dude you've ever seen. And there I was saying, dang, this kid, he's got direction. He's got a vision for what he wants to do. What have I done with my life? And that kind of drive and passion that he had really drew me to him, and wanting to help him make his short as best as possible.
And then within, I'd say probably a year or so, 2011, we were talking about our first film together, and that was The Gallows.
That's when we created our company, Tremendum Pictures, and we used Tremendum to start our career, essentially.
Yeah, and the Gallows was the first thing we started collaborating on and did from start to finish together. So it's quite the journey. And then, of course, it didn't come out till 2015, and man, it was quite the ride creating that.
Yeah.
We're actually, if any of your listeners are interested in hearing the in-depth story on just that movie, man, check out our new podcast, because we do a deep dive into the 4-year journey of creating The Gallows. And
it's mainly to inspire filmmakers.
Because
to help them through just all the stuff that they don't know about. There's so many things that you don't know. And we got to learn all those things. So we do a deep dive on our Unlikely Story podcast on that. But it was also it was really neat to be able to work with the people that we worked with: Blumhouse, Management 360, New Line, Warner Brothers. Another fun fact is that if you watch the Blu-ray, if you get a Blu-ray, there's both the original version that we shot and then the second version of the movie, which
came out in theaters.
Which is what came out in theaters. But the original version had a completely different actress in the part of, what Cassidy Gifford played, because that actress had changed her appearance significantly, and we were going to keep all of her stuff. But once she changed her appearance, when we were going back to do maybe 40% reshoots to kind of smooth some things out, we met 3 weeks before filming, and she just did not look like the same person. So none of that continuity would have lined up. And it's a found footage movie, so we can't do anything. So we ended up having to reshoot 90 to 95% of the movie a second time with a different actress.
Wow. I have the Blu-ray. I need to check that out then.
Oh, nice.
So I need to check that. I have an extensive, very extensive Blu-ray collection.
Gosh,
actually,
yeah.
Tim nicknamed it the Monolith because it's
really
literally
is.
a wall. The back wall of our apartment is back. My wife found this great setup for IKEA, except I don't think she thought I'd ever fill it. But now I'm down to the last 2 empty shelves.
Oh, wow.
So it's getting
That's
close.
awesome.
Yeah, I may need a second Monolith, or don't know if I'll be asked to move out. I don't know. Oh, that's awesome though. I'm definitely going to check that out. And I definitely want to hear that podcast because we're fascinated by filmmaking process. So we'd love to do that. So Jill, this one's for you. So not only did you give an absolutely, I have to say, we both agree that you gave such an incredible performance as Emma, but you also wrote the film. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you got the idea for it?
I started out as an actress, and I'd been doing that for a while, and kind of trying to get doors to open, and they just weren't opening with the speed that I wanted them to. So I started writing, directing, producing a couple of short films. So I'd been doing that for a few years when I happened to meet Travis, who lives literally across the street from my sister in my hometown. I'd been up visiting from Los Angeles for the weekend and got to talking with him, and he introduced me to Chris and got to just kind of pitch them this idea that I had been kind of playing with of, trying to do low budget horror. So single location, a small cast, all of that kind of elements involved. And then just kind of pitched them the idea and they liked it. So I sat down and I wrote the first draft of the script and I sent them that and they liked it. So we just kind of kept going back and forth and developing it from there.
Yeah, it was really we both loved the film a lot, and like that's amazing to me that was your you decided, you're like, okay, I'm not getting where I want to do, so I'm gonna write my own movie, and then not only then you star in it and do such an amazing job. That's just a great story to hear.
Thank you so much.
We have to like double applaud Jill on that too, because like one of our favorite sayings, and I think it was something we talked with Jill about a lot, was Mark Duplass's quote, "The cavalry isn't coming." It's no one's going to come and hand you your career on a silver platter. You got to go create it. You got to go make it happen for yourself. And again, just kudos to Jill for pushing this story and creating something literally from nothing and bringing it to life all the way through. And not only to completion, but to release, like here we are celebrating and, the Blu-ray's coming out. So it's just an amazing feat. And it's awesome to be a part of it.
Yeah, we always say, man, we applaud people that make terrible movies.
Even terrible movies should
because
be applauded.
because it is a monstrous feat to actually create a film, even a bad one. So we applaud that and that colossal effort it takes. We're just super thankful
that ours is a good one.
Grateful that this one's a good one.
Yeah.
And that we're all just super happy with how it turned out. Performances, the cinematography, just everything felt so great on it for us.
Well, now that with the Blu-ray coming out, that will definitely be added to the monolith. I can guarantee. So, when I order it and I'll get it, I usually post pictures of my new releases. So I'll make sure I let you guys see it.
That's awesome. Can't wait.
So, Jill, one thing that struck me when I was watching the movie is a lot of times writers of horror movies these days are challenged because of the cell phone problem and how do we get around cell phones, how do we get around this, but this movie really embraces technology, it uses it as part of the story. Did you always kind of have that in mind, that this would be a bit of a high-tech horror film?
I think it kind of evolved organically from what you're saying, kind of trying to solve those problems. There was a few years before I had even come up with the idea for the script, I saw a local news story about a couple that had stayed at an Airbnb, and there had been a security camera that they found above the bed. And that was horrifying and just kind of stuck with me. So I think it kind of was always there, this notion of, when you go to a house rental, especially now, there's so much security in these places, from the door locks to cameras, and you just kind of never know, like, if you're being watched, if you're being listened to, like what all's going on within that house. Because there's so much technology that just surrounds us all the time now.
Yeah, I think that's great. Because I'm in IT in my non-podcasting life, so I'm around technology all the time. So I don't ever think of it as scary because I'm kind of like into it, nerding out over the latest and greatest. But then you see it in a horror movie, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh my God, all this stuff could actually really happen." And I never really thought about it that way. But yeah, it is kind of scary. And I like that. Hey guys, and I like that. I like the trend of horror, adjusting with the times and portraying fears of present day. So I thought that was a really, really cool aspect of the movie.
Yeah, and I think you did. You're going to go into get the credit for what Jaws did for the ocean. You're going to do for Apple Watches, I think. But which is great. So speaking of the high tech stuff here, so this one's for Travis and Chris. So the remote smart home was such a unique setting, I thought, and actually in my one of the company that I work for, my podcasting, it is really big on selling smart home technology things and stuff. So I was familiar with a lot of the stuff that was going on there. And so like, what can you tell us about that house? And did it present any challenges? And also, is it for rent? Because I think it's really awesome. But
the house was honestly such a dream to work with. As you know from seeing the film, it's a huge character in the film. And that was always the plan. So the scouting process for this was tough because we had to find a place that worked for so many different specific things in the script. Thankfully, we had this friend who we'd only been friends with a couple months. His name's Nodder, And he's actually a real estate guy in Fresno where we are. And he was actually showing us different houses that were on the market
that had a similar vibe. We were trying to figure out like what's a futuristic vintage. That's kind of the terms we were using for it, like futuristic vintage, because that's kind of looking forward. We have to go back is kind of like a theme in the movie.
And we always like the idea of the movie having a little bit of a sci-fi vibe to it. I mean, that was always something interesting to us to kind of set it apart too a little bit. But we weren't finding what we were looking for with Nodder. And then one day he was just like, guys, look, I could take one for the team. Why don't you come check out my place? And so we go to his place and it's like, just, it hits us right away that this can work. This is a really cool vibe.
All he had to do was take his wife and 2 kids and move them out for a month.
Yeah.
And maybe, repaint the walls, get the gardens all taken care of, get the pool tile regrouted or and all those things he did. I guess it forced him to do all the things that his wife had been bugging him to do for a long time.
Yeah.
And he wanted his house to look awesome on camera, which we think it does. So we came through on our part of the bargain. But that was all just out of the good and love of wanting to be part of it. I mean, that's the kind of magic we experience here when filmmaking in Fresno in the Central Valley.
There were a lot of features in the script that were already naturally there, which was cool. Like the automatic shades that came down over the windows, that was already there. He had a lot of security screens throughout the house. The just sleek, very, like Travis said, futuristic kind of vibe. I mean, it was all really there. So it was just a matter of kind of mapping out the blocking and planning, the schedule on which rooms and when. But it really worked out like really well. And the house, it just looks super cool on camera. Like Travis said, they should rent it out.
They should.
They should do something with it.
They
especially
should.
now.
They in some sick world, there's probably people waiting to line up for a held experience. No joke. We sold tons of tickets to our haunted house that was in the staging area for the Gallows. I mean, we had like 5,000 people go through our haunted house we did in October of 2015. And they loved it. I bet something could happen with that house where they did something like that. That would be awesome.
Tim and I would be there. We're big haunt fans. We love going to.
You do an escape room or something.
Yeah. That's actually a great idea.
Yeah. So guys, I'm always fascinated by. I know all films are collaborative because you have multiple people working on them, but I'm always interested when you have like multiple directors or that kind of thing. And then in this case, you actually had the writer as your lead actress. So you got all kinds of creative input coming from, people wearing multiple hats. Can you talk little bit about kind of your process for kind of handling all this multiple people's perspectives and ideas coming together to film this?
I think you just have to operate in good faith.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best thing on any time. And if that gets breached in any way, you kind of have to, if you're too far into something, you kind of have to just be like, man, we got to chalk it up to learning and change things up on the next one, or figure it out. And then things are going to work out great. I think in this case, it was tricky because like Jill had ideas when she's writing it that may be different from what we were thinking as directors. But like, I think when we allowed each other to have the right amount of input and listening ears to each other, we were able to come to agreements on things and see why certain things would be better. If you're trying to fight just for an idea that you like because you like it, that's not the way to do it. If you're fighting for the movie to be the best movie it can be, you're always going to be listening to if there's an idea better than what you've got. So you're not going to be having this ego or whatever.
Right.
You're just going to be like, oh, you know what? Okay, let me think on that. Okay, that could be better. And so there's got to be a certain humility in that collaboration to allow it to move forward to get the better results. When you don't have that, it can show in movies, and you can end up having movies like there's plenty of big ones I won't mention, but plenty of big ones that like, oh, the director did this, or the studio took it and did this, and it's like, oh man, the studio killed it. They killed it, meaning like in a bad way. And it's tough sometimes.
Well, and I think with this one, Jill, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on it too. But we did have a lot of communication in pre-production. We really went through every scene with Jill.
All the drafts.
We were all really familiar with the material, and I think we all knew what we wanted out of it. Like we were really on the same page with the tone, the way these scenes were going to unfold. And then it was just a matter of getting in there and seeing how it all went down, you know, the movie magic. But with Travis and I, typically we're checks and balances with each other in terms of directors. I'm usually the one that's talking with the actors first, and Travis is kind of watchful eyes on blocking and with the crew and stuff. And then if he sees something that's not quite lining up or working, he'll come in and talk with me or the actors and stuff. So it's really great to have that, you know,
and Chris is great on technical stuff that I might not understand what lens size or what. He'll be like, no, we need the 25 on this, and I'll see it. I'll be like, yes, that's the look.
Yeah.
So that's
I'm curious Jill, what was that like for you though too, having, like these guys said, that kind of team effort, you know?
I mean, it really was. Like I said, they read every single draft of the script and gave notes and a ton of feedback. And a lot of the script was really shaped with their input. You know, they really understand the horror genre, which I was new to writing. So they were great at guiding me on, you know, the audience is going to want this here and the audience is going to kind of expect this here. And so it was, I think from the very beginning, just so incredibly shaped by all three of us. I mean, I may have been the one writing the script, but I think Chris and Travis's fingerprints are all over the story and the characters. And then once it was time to like hand over the script to the directors, you know, it's their baby at that point, and whatever changes they want to do with it, you know, at that point, I'm an actor, I'm there to serve them, I'm there to serve the movie and the story and the character. So it was a great collaboration of working with them. And the two
let's make sure that everyone understands artistically. We're talking about artistically. She's not to serve at us or anything like that. Let's just get that straightened up right away.
Yeah, we probably need to make that clear.
Yeah. I need to get the Blu-ray when it comes out. You'll see what we're talking about. We're not. Let's try to dodge that bullet real quick.
The two of them really do seem to share a brain. It was kind of crazy on set. Like one of them would come over and give a direction, and then like, no kidding, like 30 seconds later, the other one would come over and say the exact same thing, like in the exact same way. And it was like, okay, you two are really on the same page with what you want this movie to be. That's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we're going to go back, and I know you're probably getting sick of the compliment, but we're going to go back to your amazing performance in this too, because your character we thought was really likable and easy to get behind, though there were some revelations throughout, of course, that add some layers of complexity for the viewer there. But can you talk a bit about what it was like to portray a character that on screen that you created from scratch?
I mean, it's interesting because I wrote her knowing that I was going to be playing her and bringing her to life. And I think I pulled a certain amount from my own personal life experiences and trying to chart that journey, you know, as a woman of finding your voice and finding your strength. And, you know, that was a real journey for me to do just in my own life. And then to try to bring that into the character of, you know, not just, you know, I think as women, we're so conditioned to be people pleasers, and learning to, you know, instead of just being concerned about, you know, Emma is not just concerned about Henry, you know, and his happiness, but also trying to find her own, and trying to find her own voice and her own strength and asserting what she needs and wants in life. I think is kind of where she's at when the movie starts. And then obviously with everything that gets thrown at them, she's really forced into actually, you know, owning that and actually really taking on having to fight for everything.
I was going to say that's one of the things I thought that was so great about the character, because you know, even, you know, without giving any spoilers, even when there was some peril or some, you know, tricky situation, and you always seem to and it's probably because you wrote it so well like that, you always seem to have her in her control on her own terms as best she could at that moment. And I thought that was really interesting, because you don't always see that, because, you know, horror films, there's always this, okay, who's the final girl? And essentially you were the you know, there really only, there's very small characters in this, but you were the, you know, definitely a final girl, but way more, you know. So it's like that's what I thought was so great about it, because your character had so many layers to it, but still managed to kind of always, in every situation, the best you could, stay in control and stay on your own terms in it. So that was just, I thought, was really key to making this film so good.
Thank you. I mean, I wanted her to be smart. You know, I think sometimes, it's always a trick with horror movies because sometimes characters have to make bad decisions for the events of the film to play out. But I wanted to keep her, smart and intelligent and thinking for herself throughout the movie. And, part of, I think, that interesting contrast then, with Henry becomes, the two of them having disagreements about how to proceed, in this horrible situation.
Awesome. Well, guys, are there any upcoming projects you can tell us about?
Well, for us, I mean, we just filmed and recorded for both YouTube and all the places people can podcast our kind of filmmaker friendly podcast, indie filmmaking friendly, especially. It's called Unlikely Story, and it's on all the places and on our YouTube channel at Tremendum.
Yeah, Tremendum on YouTube. We're going to launch the first few episodes tomorrow, actually. And it's available on iTunes and Spotify and stuff. But
and
it's
the first one's about how we broke into the industry from no contacts, no connections.
So Gallows fans out there will especially appreciate that first episode. We've got another episode coming up with Ryan Schuss, one of the main actors from the Gallows. He was the camera guy throughout the whole movie and
updating on what he's been up to.
Yeah.
And then we did just film something that's a pitch. It's a concept pitch for a TV show, action comedy series, maybe like a mini series, like some of these Netflix, they're like 10 episodes, but it's great. It has King Batches in it. We've got like a couple of like booming TikTokers that are part of it, and people that have wanting to act in some things that are a little bit more substantial than some of the social media outlets. So we got like a really funny pitch to put towards the streamers here pretty soon with that. Some great action, family friendly, so it's not quite the gonna be as intense
for the horror. It's not quite the horror crowd. It's more the but although it is
kind of like Back to the Future-ish, Goonies-ish, but modernized. Anyway, it's a fun thing that we're working on, action comedy, but we do also have a slate of 5 to 6 movies with some great directors, and including some films that we want to direct, but we want to produce them. So we're working on a fund to be able to raise money to do all those movies in the next 4 years or so. And given our track record of being able to not lose money on anything so far, we feel like we could really have a lot of fun with these films if we can get the funding set up and go out and make them and have a good time doing that.
We'll definitely keep it posted on that, so we can, we'll help share if you guys are doing any kind of promotion for it. We'll make sure to share it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Jill, what about you? Do you have anything coming up?
Yeah, well, the pandemic was actually really great for writing since I got to spend a lot of time at home. So I have 2 features that I'm developing with some people. So hopefully those will be going sooner than later. And then I've had several filmmakers reach out after seeing Held to ask me to audition for various roles in their films. So those will be coming up as well in the next few months.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Awesome.
And you keep us posted as well, of course. We'll be happy to help promote and share.
Yeah, hey, that's news to us too, Jill. Why don't you tell us the good news every once in a while? That's cool. I'm excited.
She told us she wanted to share it with you on the show, so she.
There you go. Breaking.
Yeah, gotta have something. We gotta have some piece of breaking news right now.
Yeah.
But awesome. So before we go, if you guys want to share where everyone, of course, can find the film, and then also if you have any social media you want to share, and of course your podcast, if you want to give that anything on that too, and Jill, same for you.
Well, for Held, I think it's just at Held Movie everywhere on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and that, like you said, the DVD Blu-ray dropping July 13th. Very cool. We got commentary, we've got a lot of cool bonus features and stuff on there too. And then the podcast, Unlikely Story podcast. You can watch it on YouTube or listen on iTunes and Spotify. And it's going to be a lot of fun, especially, again, for filmmakers or creators, storytellers.
And to watch that or participate in any future Tremendum movies at Tremendum or Tremendum.com. But that's where you can find us. And that's where we're headed into the future with strength and force.
What about you, Jill?
I'm on Instagram at Jill Awbrey.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks so much, guys, for coming on.
Yeah.
I mean, we love doing these interviews, but it's always fun when we can interview people with a movie that we absolutely loved. and get to
So
talk
glad.
to the creators and stuff. So that's always a lot of fun. We'll definitely make sure our listeners check the movie out. Again, I just appreciate your time coming on the show.
That means a lot, guys. We really appreciate your kind words. And,
Yeah.
you know, it at times it can be a grind. And when you don't hear stuff like what you've just said, man, that could just take anyone out of the game.
It makes you wonder, like, man, is it even worth
Oh,
doing
should we even make another one? And then you hear stuff like what you said, and that we're really appreciative of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you get that from the podcast. You're shouting into the void, and you don't really know if anybody's listening or watching or whatever. So yeah, I totally get it.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having us.